Hey, welcome to episode 173 of the Titanforge podcast. I'm Dratnos, joined by Tettles
Yo, what's up, dudes? We're back.
and Trell.
Yo, what's up, Tettles? You missed the memo on wearing light blue today.
Yeah,
I have a light blue shirt that I could have worn if I got the memo. I unfortunately missed the assignment.
No
unbelievable.
worries, next time.
Yeah.
Okay. What's next week?
We don't know yet.
TBD.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Word.
Will patrons in the show Discord let us know? And we'll
is that what is this going down here?
That's right. Bonus Patreon perk implemented right now. Choose the color of the color scheme for next week's show, episode 174.
God.
All right,
Dude.
I don't know. I don't know if we should start down that path again. Soon they're gonna make us make triangles again.
There's no way. It's mathematically impossible to make a triangle when you've got this shape here. That it can't be done.
That's true.
There's just no.
Surely there is a way.
It's not possible. I can't. Charles doesn't have enough arms to like link a triangle.
Yeah, I need like 4 arms at least.
Go across.
There's no way.
There's no way.
It can't be done. Okay, so this week we're going to do a show this week, obviously, as I'm sure you've already gathered. We're also going to do a show next week, and that'll be when the new patch is out, but the new content, the season, won't be out yet. And then we're going to take a few weeks off for the start of the season, because that's obviously giga busy time for all of us, although you can check out our individual channels and our streams and stuff if you want to find us there for a while. And then we'll be back. If I had to guess, I would say probably May 25th we would return.
Okay.
But it's plus or minus depending on how the patch launch goes and such.
I mean, we're gonna be also doing like daily recaps of the Race to World First and a bunch of other stuff that's going on too. So it's not like we're gonna have like no content and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, just the podcast itself is gonna take a little bit off.
Yep.
All right. So without further ado, this week we've got some interviews to cover. We also have some other news from the patch. And in terms of just hottest, most recent news, there is a Affix change to Incorporeal and Afflicted that I thought we would start off with here, which is the spawn rate has been nerfed of Incorporeal and Afflicted. Afflicted seems to be down to 30-second intervals from 20, and Incorporeal seems to be on 45 up from 20. So huge, more than double the spawn rate nerf here for Incorporeal. Both also seem to be on a somewhat similar to Quaking logic, although Quaking spawn logic, so for those who don't know, is when you were in dungeon with Quaking active, once every 20 seconds, the game would just randomly decide either there was or wasn't a Quake, and that was the only time a Quake could happen. Afflicted and Incorporeal seem to have that sort of static, fixed time RNG, whether or not there is a spawn thing. But unlike Quaking, it seems like it is not going to happen out of combat. So
Okay, so it's like thundering.
Yeah,
closer, I guess, to thundering. Although thundering had this like 5-second variance built into it that Quaking didn't have on when it could spawn.
Thundering also couldn't be skipped to where this can.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is going to be you can get an Afflicted every 30 seconds, but you could also get an Afflicted skipping a spot here, right? Like here in this clip, they went a whole minute without it showing up once, right?
This is definitely a better change. I mean, I was talking, Charles, Crassus, and myself were talking about some stuff like before the podcast even started, and him and I were discussing it, and I still think that Incorporeal is just too hard. Like, I was testing it again last weekend, and while it is better with the spawn rate reductions, there's a cap on the amount that you can get and stuff like that, it still, at least in my personal opinion, seems like it's too impactful, and if you ever mess it up, like, you get punished an inordinate amount, because, like, if you think about the other affixes, like Volcanic, for example, if you mess it up, you just get knocked up in the air. Whereas with Incorporeal, if you mess it up one time, and it's not even an issue of like, most of the time, like say like 9 out of 10 times you get the Incorporeal right, but if you mess it up once, you're getting punished like a significant amount to the point where there's a decent degree of chance that you wipe. Now, and I don't think it's just an issue of like bosses and overlaps. It's just like an issue of, is this too punishing? And I don't know. I'm not really sure the answer.
Yeah. Good.
Maybe if it was toned down to like 30% less damage. I mean, it's 50% right now, right? Is that how high it
Yes.
is? Like
Yes.
that is kind of insane. Maybe 30% would be a little bit better, but I don't think it's the end of the world if it has some kind of downside in this arena. Because I think 45-second intervals is pretty doable for this Affix. I was actually expecting a 30-second interval. That would have been reasonable in my mind.
I I guess there's a question of like, even with thundering timers or quaking timers, how often do you actually look at them, right? More often than not, you play reactionary games whenever you see either the quaking circle spawn on you, or you see the thundering come out. Like, infrequently is it preemptive, right? And like, while this is a good change because it allows you to be preemptive with it, I don't play the game like super preemptively, and maybe that's just me being bad, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like with thundering, the
Mm,
best way to do it is definitely to, look at it and be aware of it and like save your grief torch for 20 seconds or whatever for it. And with
yeah.
quaking, I find myself with quaking looking at it mostly just like if we're about to shroud, right? Something like that. Like you
Yeah.
look at the quaking
Or a
timer.
stack mechanics coming up in like 10 seconds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or
Just like a couple
thundering.
conditional moments where you like look at a timer for thundering or quaking and you're like, okay, we should worry about this.
But yeah, with
Basically.
Incorporeal and with Afflicted, I don't think there's going to be too much need to do that. Yeah. I mean, I do think you'll still want a weak aura that gives you that timer and tells you, like, just in case you want to refer to it. But I agree,
Yeah.
it's probably not something you're going to want to worry too much about.
I just worry that's too much of a pain in the ass to kind of deal with, right? And it's like the part that at least I had the most trouble with is like the golem boss in Uldamon, and like they spawn on players, which is fine, but more often than not, you have like two players that are assigned to deal with them with like spammable CC or like low cooldown CC, and if those two players aren't either able or they don't see the spawn, it's like really challenging to be able to deal with well.
Yeah, I agree. That's the situation where I was thinking is still going to be the outlier, like really, really difficult part. Or let's say the tank is the one with the CC and you're kind of stuck in one spot, which is often the case, and it's out of your range. Like, what do you do? That kind of thing is kind of
Or you don't
scary.
see it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that being aware of the Incorporeal, like, I think if it explodes because you didn't see it, that's probably something that's okay as long as, if there's a boss where you're spread out across an 100-yard area, then that's sort of annoying. But I think if that's the skill of the affix is like noticing it, then that's fine. But if it's like, if there are boss fights that have patterns where it's like you can legitimately have 3 out of 5 people in your party like notice it and try and fix it and not be able to, I do think that's bad. On the 45-second interval, like, most classes have something good against this, even if it is on that longer cooldown, right? Like,
Yes.
yes, they note DK and Warrior, which will struggle with this still potentially, but even there, like, you have your individual kick once, you have your Stormbolter Asphyxiate or whatever type effects that like can tide you over until somebody else can get there.
My issue with Incorporeal has never been the amount of CC that is required, right? I mean, that is particularly annoying. And if you ran out of CC for the affix, like obviously there is something that is like massively wrong with that. If you just like don't have enough CC for it, my issue is more just like how to deal with it seems a bit tough, and especially since it's so punishing if you mess it up.
Yeah, I do think that in general the affixes, like, the thundering stun harshness was bad, and the incorporeal failure harshness I think is also bad.
It's like explosive, right? It's like in my mind it's probably slightly less impactful than messing up an explosive, but it's certainly close.
It's tough though, because like you can't nerf it by that much before it gets to a point where if it stops like being really bad to let it go off, then pretty quick it will start being correct to just ignore it and let it go off, right? And like,
Yeah.
that's not what they want either. So I don't know. I feel like going from 20 to 45 on this is really good. And
I agree. It's a good nerf.
yeah, maybe the damage and healing nerf that it gives you can be like dispellable, so the healer can dispel themselves and then still heal the group or something. I don't know. That could be a way to make it a little bit less of like a wipe. But yeah. The Afflicted timer, so with Afflicted, I previously thought it was probably fine-ish at 20. After testing it on PTR a little bit, I think going up to 30 is going to be nice for this. Like, it was doable on 20, and especially if you had off dispels in your group, it was pretty good, but it was quite frequent that you were getting these things, and it was the kind of thing where it was like you're dispelling on CD, right? Basically, these these afflicted things, and
Yeah, and you
I
were
think
basically
30
like
is good.
playing the affix, right? Which is what they're trying to get away from now.
Yeah,
I think 30 is good too. I really like these changes.
I think that Afflicted is certainly in a better spot than Incorporeal, but I think that's largely to deal with like how you deal with it more often than not.
The only downside with afflicted now, in my mind, is one, if you just don't have any kind of off to spell, it's just way harder. And two, the same thing as Incorporeal, where if it spawns out of your range and you're stuck in one spot or something for a mechanic or you're a tank, then it's twice as hard for the group to take care of.
Now, admittedly, I've always played with the hybrid spec that had an off dispel, so I don't know what that would look like without.
yeah, not good. Or dude, if your healer just hasn't talented their thing that empowers their dispel, that's gonna be the
Oh yeah.
first key of afflicted week. Healer realizes they have that wrong. The key is dead. Type.
Wait, is it
they
not
have to
magic
zone out.
dispellable?
No,
No.
it's only poison, curse,
Oh.
disease dispellable.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Invite a mage to every key.
Otherwise, like
think a mage
Shadow
is dispelling
Priest
those, bro?
and Warlock would have good counterplay against it too, which maybe would be cool.
Well, do I think that mage is going to be dispelling those? Yeah, probably, because I think that mage is going to be meta next season. So we'll see.
I can almost guarantee it'll end up being somebody else's job somehow. If a mage has the ability to take care of a mechanic,
Well, the mage
if
can also
there's a way
polymorph
they
the-
cannot take care of the mechanic, it'll happen.
Dude, this is so messed up that you're slandering Hopeful. You did the fake push with him, whatever the reject challenge.
The break the meta challenge, that's true.
Yeah.
That's where this data is coming from, actually.
one mage.
Dude, maybe this will be the season we see the rare utility mage instead of the damage mage coming out.
They're gonna have to polymorph the Incorporeals too, man.
Yeah. That's a lot of value.
They can talent mass poly. Maybe.
Oh yeah, does mass poly hit multiple incorporeals? I feel like we're never gonna know because they'll never press it.
Solar beam actually blankets both if they're close enough. So I
Ah.
suspect that mass poly probably can.
Oh, it's cool that Solar Beam hits 2 of them, but Shockwave doesn't hit any of them. That's
Oh,
that's really
so
nice.
cool.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Not that I can't sweep them.
Yep, that's sweet. That's whew. Pretty nice.
And that's real anger right there.
Let's move on to talking about some of the interviews that have happened this week before we spend too long on this topic. And I punch my desk. So we've had several interviews between Ian and NA and EU content creators, sort of en masse, not recorded, but just like there are these, I guess, content creator interviews, which, you know, hypothetically, if they did happen, were probably happening really early before people wanted to wake up or something. But I've heard that this is what was happening in them. So there was a bunch of things covered in these. We're not going to go exhaustively through them. I made a video where I kind of popped through and picked out a few of the different things in here. Some I think of the big notes though. Crafted gear automatically being bumped up to 421. Any 418 crafted piece is getting automatically bumped up. That is now confirmed. I think I've talked about this a few times as something that was probably going to happen, but it is confirmed now, so that's kind of big.
This is epic. I'll finally get a 421 weapon.
Wait,
This
you
season.
don't have. Wait, you couldn't get a 421 weapon?
Monk has no good 421 weapon options, so you just wear the crafted weapons the entire season.
Oh, because you don't want to wear the Kurog Grim Totem polearm, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or the fist weapons.
Or the one-hander.
Or the Dathia. I guess Dathia is a warglaive or something. Yeah, okay. That's
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so funny that you didn't wear those. What the hell?
And then I guess the rest of the stuff in this NA interview.
The NA one wasn't
pretty dry. Yeah, there was stuff about them not planning to change the Mythic lockout system, which we've talked about before. I think I personally would still like to see that changed, but this is the kind of classic Blizzard thing of they've answered this like 40 times, then they keep getting asked it, and they're going to keep giving the same answer, and at some point maybe they'll change their mind, but until then, this is what they're going to say.
Side note, I have a question. Would you be okay if there was no heroic loot lockout on heroic raid?
Like, so you could just keep resetting and killing the boss and getting all the items from heroic?
Yeah.
I think that would be bad. I think
Would
that
it?
would be very bad.
I think a lot of people would like that, but I think the majority of people would not, because that just makes it like even more. If you have time to farm both heroic raid and mythic plus the first week, you can just be miles ahead of other players and
You know how
the term of progression.
You know how people don't like doing splits, but most people don't have to do splits? You would just main run through heroic over and over again, You would reset Neltharion. You would spend 4 hours killing Neltharion and getting as many very rare items as you could, very rare trinkets off of that boss. And then you would come back for your next raid day, and you would reset the raid, and you would kill Neltharion.
You would never do splits again.
You would not be doing splits. You would be on your mains, killing Neltharion, and you would probably, if there was no heroic loot lockout, I think that you would probably kill Neltharion north of 50 times on your main in the first lockout if you were like a 16-hour raid week or something. Like,
yeah,
that sounds horrific. I don't know.
They would probably also have to adjust loot drops to be even more rare because that was possible. So it'd be like an ARPG like Diablo or Path of Exile where the good items have like this 0.5% drop chance.
Yeah, I was just reading something,
tries.
And it was like kind of interesting that they were like fielding the idea of not having a heroic lockout.
Yeah, I think that would be very bad. I think if the very rare items were like a personal loot roll once per week or something, maybe that could work. But even still, like that, it would be correct for
remove very rare items.
It would be correct for like any mythic raiding guild to spend all of their time in heroic until they had full like this heroic gear in that situation, which I think would suck.
What if there was 4 weeks between heroic and mythic opening then?
Final Fantasy enjoyer, I see.
Yeah. I think that's how it came up. That's how the comment came up, I think, is what it was. And they're like, yeah, so what if there was no heroic lockout? And then there was 4 weeks between mythic opening and heroic opening. I was just reading, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I guess that the heroic to mythic lockout part specifically wouldn't be that bad in my mind, because now that Mythic Plus is uncapped the first week, beyond, I guess that'd be cool to like gear for Mythic Raid. Like even the Race to World First guys would be able to fully gear with Mythic Plus. But then they would just run through all the bosses, I guess, until the last boss for free. So maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those first bosses already have kind of a weird identity in Mythic.
It's just so strange because M Plus is spammable, and it feels like the loot system doesn't really tie in that well with M Plus being spammable. Like the raid loot system, it feels like it's still a little bit disjointed. I think it's getting better this season with how the upgrade path is working, though.
Yeah, I think like normal gear being upgradable to heroic eye level is really big.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Change for that.
Yeah.
Okay. There was also an EU version of this interview, which had the big news that Mythic Keystones will depreciate by 10 levels going into Season 2. It's actually 9 levels plus 1 if you depleted. So basically, if you time a 27 next week, you will get a 18 out of your box on May 9th. If you time a 20, you'll get 11 out of your box. If you deplete a 20, you'll get a 10 out of your box. If you deplete a 15, you'll get a 5 out of your box, basically. Those are kind of some examples of what will happen to your key. And again, that is not on May 2nd. That like the key you do the week of May 2nd to 9th will affect what you get on May 9th, right? Like that is when this is going to happen. May 2nd through May 9th is still Season 1 keys, but Season 1 will be over. So it like scores for title and stuff are going to be locked, I'm pretty sure. But you'll still be able to go and there won't be any new like Mythic Plus or Raid content. What do you guys think about this 10 level depreciation for keys? For context, it used to be 3, 4, or sometimes 5 in this spot.
So first off, for most people, it's probably not going to matter too terribly much because doing a 16, especially with how they're changing the upgrade system, like doing a 16 versus doing a 20 outside of the vault is basically no difference because you're already on that upgrade track to be able to upgrade that gear as high as reasonably possible, right? So
to get gear that's on the hero track instead of the champion track, which is the gear that can go up to mythic eye level, you need to be doing 17s or higher.
Oh, 17s. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was 16s. But yeah, okay. Yeah. So you need to be able to do 17s. In addition to that, for context, people who do M plus regularly and are sweaty enough to do PTR keys are timing 20s at 410 item level on the PTR currently. That, in my mind, kind of points towards the fact that players are going to be able to get their key back up pretty high as fast as possible. And this is like Blizzard telling us, oh, you think you can be able to do a 20 week one, prove it. I don't think that you should be given a 20 immediately.
Right.
You prove that you are worthy for this. And if you are good enough, you should be able to get back there pretty fast.
It does kind of feel on PTR like the scaling factor hasn't been put in yet or something, right? Like the difficulty of the keys relative to eye level. I don't know. That's I don't know if you guys have had that experience as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if like the keys were slightly harder at 410 eye level than they are on PTR right now.
Yeah,
But
I wouldn't be surprised either. I really don't mind this change because I think that introducing your friends to keys, especially if they don't know what's going on in these new dungeons, at like a 17 or 18 level or even a 14, 15 level, compared to just jumping straight into 20s, is probably more beneficial for the average player and average mythic raider player, I should say. Like even starting at 10s and working your way up to 15s, if that's your goal, I think is better than just jumping straight into 15s as well.
I think for a lot of players too, early on in the season, it's going to make a lot more sense for them. I mean, it's a brand new set of dungeons, right? I think that's one of the big things too. It's like it may be, and maybe it would be different if it was the exact same dungeons again. But since it's a brand new set of dungeons, it's going to take a while for some players to learn these new dungeons. It also is kind of beneficial for LFG too, if you're dropping keys 10 levels, because then it forces like mostly LFG players to kind of play through the key levels a bit more as opposed to only be doing 20s.
I like this actually.
If you're good enough to be able to do a 20 week one, you'll be doing a 20.
yeah,
The only qualm about this I have is for my alts that I haven't played in a while. Like I don't really want to go do a 25 on my warrior and DK next week unless I absolutely have to, you know. Hopefully we can just get those keys out of like running a friend's key and then looting a key at the end of the dungeon.
So
hopefully that works, but I don't know for sure.
That's definitely going to be the meta for this among high-end players is going to be like 3 or 4 people in the guild loot their box and push up the keys at the start of the, actually it could be even as few. If you have a guild, you just have one person loot their vault or whatever on 8 a.m., push up with a couple other guildies that wake up early, push their key up to a 21. Then everybody loots their key out of end of dungeon box out of that 21, gets a 20 from that, and then everybody else in the guild that logs in later that day runs one of those 21s and gets their key out of that end of dungeon as well.
I think they fixed that because my guild tried to do that on expansion launch, and they were pushing up keys with alts, and then the main got like a +2.
Okay.
Oh, that was a bug. It was it worked in either the non-Dragonflight dungeons or the Dragonflight dungeons, but not the other.
Yeah.
So
well, that makes no sense. All right, well,
I don't know where that's going to land. I guess someone will have to test, and then everybody else can reap the benefits of watching that person suffer or something. We'll see.
But either way, like you'll either push up one person's key and then everybody will get keys, or you'll push up one person key and then everybody else will just try and not run their keys, and you'll just try and keep running the person's key that actually got pushed up, right? And it's just you get a little bit less key selection, but a little bit more like because you're not going to want to do extra 13, 14, 15 keys, right?
I mean, you described that as the meta, right? But like that's the meta in the sense of like what is going to allow me to play the least. And I think in general, my thought process is just if you're playing the game more, you're going to be getting the gear anyway.
Yeah,
it's not
would
really
you rather spend 2
much.
hours doing 20s or doing 13s, right? Like the time is better spent in the 20s, especially because you get, so there is some value in doing 11 to 16s if you're not full clearing heroic, but if you're full clearing heroic, you get almost all of the Drake's tokens that you're going to need from doing that. So I think you can get a couple more from the first few of those keys each week, but I don't know. I think that if they want to do this, so I think it's a good idea as well, but I think they should make it so you can't cheese what key you get by not taking one out of your vault or not taking one out of end of dungeons and just pushing up the key and then getting one out of that box. It's just for that first week. Do you
think this is fine? Do you think this is fine then, or do you think that it should have only been like 3 or 4 levels?
No, I think this is good. I mean, I think because like there's been some previous seasons where sometimes they depreciate by 3 or 4 levels, and then the scaling factor or whatever, or the seasonal affix changing means that actually like keys have gotten 6 levels harder, but they've only gotten 3 levels lower. And so people are like doing really hard push keys as the key that they get at the start of the season, and then like they're not used to the affix, and so they hate the affix because they try it at a really high level as their first key of it. I think that was like the tormented experience, right, with something like that, or maybe the encrypted experience where just the first week was like really brutal.
It was tormented.
Tormented.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense because like if you can do the 20, you can push up to the 20 easily, and if you can't do the 20, it's really good that they don't just hand you the 20 because
I agree with that.
Like
I remember I have this like vivid memory of doing a 21 Siege of Borealis in season 3 of BFA where Beguiling was the affix.
Oh god.
And it was just pain. And I think we completed it to finish the key and get like a huge weekly done because it scaled with artifact
Oh
power
my
back
god!
then.
I
Oh
forgot
my
about
god, I
that.
remember. Hang on. This
It
is
was
like
so
one of those.
painful.
This is like a
It's a
repressed
core memory. Yeah.
There was a Toldegor, and this was back before they nerfed Void Emissaries, and there was just this Void Emissary standing outside Toldegor. I
Oh
think we had
god, yeah.
50 deaths to
I
it. We were
remember
just
that.
throwing our bodies against this stupid Void Emissary that had 10 stacks or 5 stacks or whatever the maximum was of its buff.
Dude, still one of the funniest memories I ever have is actually related to the Void Emissary. It was the tweet that you made whenever it was teaming Void Emissary week and the
And Temple?
Yeah.
Temple of
Temple of
Sethless
Stralis,
fucking...
5 dervishes, 1 Void Emissary. Yeah.
Oh, that was ridiculous. That pack was so ridiculous.
And so instead of changing the dervishes at all, they're like, yeah, what if we just removed this Void Emissary?
Yeah. What a time to be alive. Okay, we also have had an interview between Liquid GM Maximum and Blizzard, not GM, developer extraordinaire, Morgan Day, about a bunch of other stuff that included some info about the Onyx Amulet, that notably they're not planning to... They didn't hit the mark on how they wanted it to be tuned, but nerfing it would feel really bad, and there are no plans to nerf it until at least 10.1.5. So Trell, you and I are... We've got our rings on. We've got our rings on for life. It's
Listen, since I'm tanking in raid, I'm gonna play Brewmaster and Prop Alley probably. Hopefully I don't have to also play DK because I really don't want to farm it on DK. I'm guessing you've already farmed it on like 17 tanks though.
That's going to be this weekend's activity for me, is getting my full, like, 2 rings, 1 with each set, or maybe even 3 rings, 1 with the Storm Infused Prophetic Bloods, thing, and then 1 with the, like, Ice proc instead, and then also the shield combo too. Just get those all...
You're going for shields too?
You're a menace.
Look,
you are
man,
a menace.
If I can spend my weekend now in 10.0 grinding these things, and then I don't have to fly back to the Forbidden Reach to unsock it and resock it with my valuable time in 10.1, that's a good trade.
We're having a blood of the enemy moment right now.
Dude, it is a blood of the enemy moment. Everybody made fun of me for grinding blood of the enemy on my Havoc DH. And they were like, there's no way you're ever going to use that. That's not a good essence for that character. And then, lo and behold, the next season, Blood of the Enemy Fell Barrage. Haters will say Focusing Iris was better, but Blood of the Enemy Fell Barrage, that was a vibe that season, I swear, dude. And I had it planned, and I didn't have to fight any real players to do it. I got to battle against computers, which now, with AI developing at the rate that it is, I'm a little bit worried that this is going to cause a Skynet, missile to target me, but at the time, it seemed smart.
So what are we going to do about our
they're
tier
gonna
list
remember
then,
this.
if you're busy grinding the Forbidden Reach?
Oh, I think the thing about the grinding Forbidden Reach is that it can be done while doing almost anything. It's
great.
In fact, you wouldn't be able to know if my hands are out of frame. I could well be in the Forbidden Reach right now, getting my rares killed.
He's on PoE right now.
Playing
Don't let
PoE.
him.
That's
Yeah,
what he's
don't let
doing.
him lie to you, chat.
I closed PoE. I'm a good boy. Although I will not comment on if it's ever been played during a Titanforge podcast before. Other than that, in this interview, there wasn't too much else. There was, I guess, some kind of general to be expected answers about sorts of things.
Yeah.
And, they agree that there's a bunch of cool things that seasonal affixes did, which I agree with as well. But the 8 number as well for the dungeon season pool. I think 8's probably good, though, if they're new. I don't know.
Theon actually asked a really good question in our Discord. It says, what are your thoughts on their philosophy with the Onyx Amulet and to some extent items in general in WoW? So what do we think about what Morgan said in regards to the Onyx Amulet staying and not looking to get nerfed until 10.1.5, I believe is the time that he said?
Yeah, until at least 10.1.5. There are no plans.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's the end of the world, because it's not like egregiously painful to farm the Onyx Amulet on, even if you have to come back next patch to get it on a new character or something like that. It's not like that bad to do. It's a couple hours or something. But I do in general think that it is bad when there is something that is good for more than just niche cases that you need to go and farm old content to get for your character. because I think that does, like, I remember the end of BFA where I wanted to start a mage, and if you wanted to start a mage, it was like, okay, well, you need to grind Memory of Lucid Dreams rank 4. You need to go get Azara's Font of Power from the last raid, right? You need to grind PvP to get a PvP badge, right? It was like you need to go to Mechagon and get the Mechagon bracers. There were these like 6 Infinity Stones you had to go on a quest around the galaxy to collect before you could play that spec. Which I think that the more the game moves in that direction, the worse it gets, and the more it moves in the direction of like this patch right now feels good. And I think the Onyx Amulet works well because it is the like current catch-up system. But next patch, it's going to instead be one of those things that's like you joined in 10.1? Well, here is your 10.0 chores to go and do. And I think that the game should have less of those, or should have none of those, whenever possible.
Mm-hmm. At least it's not nearly as bad as having to go to an old raid, which is really hard to pug, like almost impossible to pug.
Agreed.
And then like requiring PvP or something in addition to that would be way worse too. But like, I agree. If it was any harder to acquire, in this situation, I'd probably be pretty vocal.
Yeah, I think it's not a big deal because it is so easy to pick up, but it is still like bad, just not big bad.
What's the sitch with Aeronog Ring for you two then? Trell? Like, I mean, I know Aeronog Ring is like a pretty big deal for Brewmaster,
right? I've never seen an Aeronog Ring personally. I don't know about you, Droughnos. I have a heroic Journey Ring, and that's the only thing I've ever seen on my main.
I have. Well, my warrior has
okay. Okay.
My warrior
counting. He has so many.
My warrior has a Mythic Broodkeeper ring and an icon. My paladin has a icon, but no ring from either of those bosses. My monk has, I think, a heroic ring and a mythic icon. My DK has a heroic Aeronog ring and a mythic icon. My DH has 2 mythic Aeronog rings, one socketed and one not. But you can't dual wield them. It sucks. Then, my druid. Oh, my druid has an Aeronog ring as well. Yeah, mythic. So most of my characters have one very rare item. Well, most of my characters have one very rare item. Some have 2, but none have 3. So I'm pretty unlucky if you look at it in those terms. Right?
I mean, I've been doing just infinite splits, right, on 3 characters for a while, and I still don't have all 3 either. Like,
let me pull up my Raider.io recap, and I've killed a lot. I've done a lot of 2 out of 8s.
Okay, so my hunter has 2, my warlock has 2, and my druid also has 2. None of them have all 3, and I've been doing 8 out of 8 mythics on all 3 of those characters for like an extended period of time now.
Yeah,
man, I do have icon on both my tanks that I'll probably be progging on, but just the Journey Ring on Brewmaster, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I have my problems with the very rare items. I do think though that at least like, I don't know, at least those feel like they have some nice upside of like having exciting boss drops. That is cool. But I think those also should probably get nerfed if they're still Turbo Bis into a new patch. Like if you're at all behind for not having a Vault of the Incarnates icon drop over the course of 6 months of grinding Vault of the Incarnates at the start of the Avarice raid, that sucks as well. Like that should also change.
Yeah,
I could see raid tokens for very rare items at some point.
That would be great if there was
or any kind of token, like they could call them something like dinars.
I was thinking you're talking about bonus rolls for a sec. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our tip of the week segment. My tip of the week comes from Andy, who TY for sending me this. Sent me this GIF of how to in-game look at your tier pieces, their stats, and their set bonus instead of having to like go to a website. So you go up to the top of your adventure guide, switch it to Shadowlands, and then you can get to this loot tab down here, and then you change it from the legendary powers to the item sets drop down, and you'll be able to go see your item sets in game. You do have to change it to Shadowlands so that you can get this loot tab though, and then you can go and have a look at your tier pieces and what stats they have on them and what the set bonuses do without needing to go to a website or something if you want in game. So neat little
That's
hack.
actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is there like a drop down once you get to that point for each expansion?
So It shows the it just shows the Dragonflight ones, I think, right now, because they're the only active sets. But maybe that
Oh,
up in the top right, that thing would let you go to the other expansion sets. I'm not sure. It's weird
Yeah,
because you
that'd be
can't look at the loot tab doesn't show up on the Dragonflight window. You need to move to Shadowlands so you can get the loot
What?
tab, and then once
yeah.
you're in there and you choose the item sets, you see the Dragonflight sets. So
Honestly, if they ever iterate on that further, that'd be cool to be able to go back and see like all your classes sets in one
yeah,
spot. That'd be
kind of
actually
you
related.
can do it in the appearance tab, yeah,
really
but
cool.
seeing the actual items themselves would be good.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
can we by the way get like an actual Mythic Plus loot table, by the way? Like it is so annoying
Oh
that
yeah.
you can go to dungeons, you can go to the
Yeah.
tab that's like in plus dungeons, and then you just get the legacy loot table for that dungeon. And I'm like, that's not even what I was looking for. I'm looking for like what are the active pieces that are in this dungeon.
If you go up to the top right, can't you change it from 5 Mythic to 5 Mythic Plus, and doesn't it change? Or am I think you can do that, yeah. I think
Is-
you can.
Is
I
that
feel
how
like
that
it doesn't
works?
work for some of the legacy
Maybe it doesn't
dungeons.
work for some of them.
Does it?
Maybe.
Somebody in chat is saying it does.
Okay. Well, I think
Well,
I thought
we're
that I'd
just
done that
dudes.
before.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
the fact that it's not even like very okay, the fact that it's not clear that that is how it works is terrible.
Yeah, it is. It is a janky. The adventure guide in general is janky with the whole Mythic Plus rotation, and I know there's been multiple things like that tip I just did where you have to choose the expansion, and it doesn't work if you're in the wrong expansion for stuff.
Well,
Huh?
thank you for explaining that to me. I needed that. That was the tip of the week I needed.
All right, Trell, what is your tip of the week?
My tip of the week is if you change the dungeon loot from Mythic to Mythic Plus, you can actually. I'm just kidding. So Crassus, who was on the show a couple weeks ago, and I made a week. Well, he made a week aura really, but I repurposed it for LVI. But this is how you can show overshields on LVI uniframes instead of just the add-on that Mode showed us a couple weeks back for just the default frames. This one will actually work for LVI if anyone wants to try it out.
Neat. Super neat.
It's there's some finagling that you have to do to make sure it lines up with your bar and stuff like that, right, Trell?
Yeah, I mean you're gonna have to resize it or reposition it probably. But I just really have always wanted this way to show any kind of absorb on me when I'm at full health. Because there's this baked in way of seeing absorbs when you're lower than full health, but never when you're actually full health on top of it. So this is a way to just see any absorb in the game without having to make weak auras for
So-
every single little shield.
How does this look different if I'm at full health with a 30% shield like this versus if I was at 70% health with a 30% shield? How would this look different? Would this be
So
a
the
different
weak
color?
aura. So let's say you had a 29% shield and you're at 70% health, then it will only show the default shield on your frame instead of this weak aura shield. But once it goes beyond your combined shield plus your current health equals your max health, then it starts to show this weak aura growing to the left from your uniframe.
Okay. All right.
And it grows the second time if you have 2x your health and shielding, right?
I think it stops at double your health, but really
Okay.
that's beyond the information that
Right.
you usually need to know.
If I
It's
ever
just
have
really
double,
nice to know when
yeah.
a disc free shields you. It's really hard to tell sometimes in the moment. Or
That's
your
cool.
Journal Ring procs and you have a 10% shield for a second. That kind of stuff's really good.
Yeah, that ring is really good as well. That's cool. All right. Tuttles, what do we got for the old clip of the week here?
Oh, a meme. It's just a meme. It's nothing informational this week. I guess it's informational in the sense of if you're ever near the entrance of a dungeon and you're actively tanking a pack, don't zone out, but it's not informational anyway beyond that.
Okay, yeah. I've been there as well. That does happen. Yeah.
I think that everybody's had a moment where they were doing something and they've accidentally zoned out of the dungeon. Halls of Valor is the one that had happened to me. I had to kite back some trash at the beginning of Halls. Early on in the expansion, I accidentally zoned out of the key.
Brutal. All right. Well, nice meme. Let's move on to talking about some other news about patch 10.1. First of all, we have some news about the Spark Cadence, which is that in an interview with Ian that happened today, it was confirmed that players will earn a Spark every 2 weeks without random drops and without this thing where it is you get 5 Sparks this way and then it becomes RNG drops from rares and stuff. Instead, it's just going to be for the whole patch. The way it works is that you can get half a spark by doing basically the Aiding the Accord weekly quest that for the new content, right? Or there's like a war mode quest as well that you can do to get this, which means that your alts and stuff will need to make sure that they are doing that quest more.
So you can get perpetually behind with these, right?
Yeah, you could miss one and it's...
Interesting.
At least they haven't said anything about there being any kind of catch-up for it, so...
well, I mean, you can still get 5 on each character, right?
You can get any number. It's just you can go forever.
Well, yeah, but you get the default 5 without having to do this every week.
No. You only get one. Yes.
Yeah, starting
it's
next
a one-time thing.
Starting next week, you will earn your first half of a spark. There's nothing to do with 5 anymore. It's literally just the same system is in place next week as the whole patch, which is every week you can earn half a spark.
So if you think you're going to play a character at all, you need to start next week. Basically.
Well,
yeah.
Yes.
Well, so my guess, if I had to make a prediction, I would guess that in July they will respond to feedback that alts feel too slow to start up by letting you get more sparks on your alts more quickly.
Yeah, I bet that's gonna happen.
That is my guess.
I'm having corruption resistance deja vu, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
But
here's the thing: is like early on in the patch, I'm actually more okay with this. It's mostly in like, week 6, week 7, week 8. Then those are the parts where it's like, okay, now we're really starting to get to a point where it's kind of weird to even start an alt at this stage in the game, and you're missing massive amounts of item level too. Like you're going to be missing out on like a lot of gear.
Yeah, because the old Spark catch up was really nice in season 1, right? Where it was like, hey, I made an alt a month in. I have 4 Spark quests I can go and do to get my 4 Sparks. Or I made an alt a month and a half in, and I just got my 5 Sparks for free, which was obviously insane. Now I'm not saying it has to be that good as the like 5 free Sparks was, but
Sparks for the whole season is nice. Now that's something I will say. This is a good part of the change. Is like the ability to be able to target Sparks for the whole entire season is cool. The downside is certainly the catch up on it is non-existent.
Now, also another change from before is that you'll earn your first Spark. Your first full Spark will be the day that the raid comes out. Back in last patch, you got your second full Spark the day the raid came out, which meant that crafting a 2-handed weapon was a really good call for a lot of people. With this system, crafting a 2-handed weapon is going to be a very niche thing to do because you won't be able to do that until May 23rd. So it is unlikely that will be a big upgrade for you by then. And in order to do that, you have to have commit to your first Spark not being used until then either. So 2-handed weapon crafting, I believe, is pretty much dead. I'm wearing
a staff right now. I need a dagger. I need an offhand.
A main hand, crafting a main hand is going to make some sense, I think. But crafting a 2-handed weapon is a big investment that I now think this cadence makes bad. Yeah,
you've just unlocked. Okay. I gotta get an offhand.
So what's the deal with current crafted gear? Can you upgrade it to the new item level?
Yes,
or do you have to recraft everything?
You need to use a Spark of Shadowflame if you want to recraft up to 424 to 447 range.
Yeah. The old Sparks also still work. You just have to Okay, so the old Sparks still work. You craft them into 421 gear, and then you have to recraft them into Season 2 gear.
Or you can just go straight to Season 2 gear. You don't need to use the Season 1 Sparks.
Thank God.
Oh, I guess you technically don't even have to use the old Sparks. That's a good point.
Either way.
That's if you're trying to use the old Sparks, which it's doable.
Okay. There's also been some changes. A Great Vault cheese has been removed, which whether you call this
Don't kill Taros cheese.
Yeah, the Taros Senarth hack is going away basically. So killing a boss now gives you a chance at all of the previous boss's loot. For example, if you're invited to a kill on Sarkareth, so Tettle's not something you need to worry about, but you will be 1 out of 9 progress towards Vault for the week, but you'll have the loot from the entire raid in your Vault pool for the raid slots. So if you do like Magmarax or whatever, you'll get all of the earlier bosses, even if you even if Failed Experiments or Zakali Assault has bad loot for you, if you kill the bosses after them, they will be put into your loot pool. So there's no value in like avoiding Terros and Senarth next tier. There is some, they haven't exactly said how the wings are going to function with this. So for instance, like if I killed Senarth, am I going to get Terros in my loot pool? Am I also going to get Primal Council in my loot pool? Because that's like earlier in the dungeon journal, but it's in a different
Yeah, that'd
wing.
be interesting.
My guess is that it will just look at bosses that are direct prerequisites. So like if you kill Kurog, you should get Senarth, Terros, and Aeronog in your loot pool, but not Primal Council and Dathia. And if you kill Diurna, you should get everything except for Razageth into your pool. But they haven't explicitly said that that's true, but that would be my guess for how this will function with wings.
This is unfortunate for Mythic Plus only players who previously would like avoid certain bosses on purpose and not get their horrible loot and their Great Vault.
The funny
pool.
thing is, this would still work for Aeronog Primal Council farming, right? Like, the Aeronog Primal Council only loot hack is still good here. It's just if you're trying to like clear, if you're trying to get like the 6 bosses, no Terros, no Senarth hack is dead, which my guild was doing this for the last month or two on a lot of characters, but it is nice to. I do think it's probably good to get rid of this. Even better would be getting rid of it being so correct to avoid bosses entirely, like Terros and Senarth.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I really don't like how. I mean, it's cool that you get such a big jump in loot from the first boss to the end boss now, but like the fact that it makes 2 or 3 bosses just absolutely pointless for gear at a certain point in the raid tier is kind of weird.
I think, M plus in the new crafting system also just absolutely annihilates some of those bosses as well. Like in terms of value that they're bringing us, and obviously this isn't immediate in the expansion, right, or immediate in the patch. Like the first few weeks, getting a 415 equivalent is useful, but on even week like 8, week 7, once you've been farming and you have a lot of Shadowflame crests baked up, you have a lot of the what are the other things called?
flight stones.
The flight stones. Yeah. You have a lot of Shadowflame crests and the flight stones. 415 doesn't matter. You've already 421 equivalented out. And so And I mean, obviously and honestly, the 421 equivalent bosses also won't matter as much anymore, which is kind of weird. I don't. It's weird that they make their bosses obsolete pretty fast in regards to the loot that they drop. But I guess maybe the very rare items are the way to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Certainly, we'll be killing those bosses that drop those very rare items until the end of time. Yeah.
It's just the obsolescence part of it is strange to me.
All right. Freehold has also seen some changes here in patch 10.1. The weekly captain rotation event has been removed. We will now only ever join with Captain Jolly, which means we will be fighting Raoul and Eudora. Raoul does the barrel mechanics and Eudora does the gunshot mechanics, right?
Bang.
Yeah. So
what's the roleplay you have to do for Jolly, allied with Jolly? I can't remember which one that is.
I think it is now just
the brutes. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
It's
although I think I remember seeing some other changes as well that like they removed the events as well.
Click the captain event. I have a.
Oh, it's the dog.
One. I have another one.
The crew events? Okay.
Yeah, the crew events one. I have another link for it.
All right. Yeah, crew-specific events have also been removed, so you automatically join the captains now as well.
Yeah.
So you don't need to
go
do
and catch the dog anymore.
Correct.
Yeah. You join a captain and not their crew automatically, so it also doesn't remove the whatever one, the Cutwater Corsairs. You'll just have all of those packs afterwards be normal.
I heard there's some weird stuff with the trash mobs right now.
So I'm not surprised because there was weird stuff with the trash mobs. Like these mobs did not function correctly for the entirety of Battle for Azeroth, right? Like you would join a crew and then they would be friendly and then they would still turn hostile and start fighting you later on.
Yeah, if you fought them before the second boss.
Yeah, there was some weird stuff and they would like flee afterwards. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some weird bugs still present because I think those mobs are haunted in the code, but yeah.
So whenever you said that they're the keg one, are they the one that throws the brew buff, or are they the one that throws the GUID buggy keg? Which bosses?
I think you get both in the boss fight now. So you get the buff and the bad barrels that get thrown around, and you also get the disorient barrel on a player mechanic.
Interesting. Okay.
But
Yeah, I don't
you no
remember all
longer
that
get
well. Yeah.
the crazy saber that would always hit the tank, no matter
Somebody
what you did.
says that Jolly is the sword guy.
Okay. Yeah, so we're
Jolly's
fighting the barrel guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
we're actually not getting brews thrown to us. We're only getting the GUID barrel.
Yeah.
No, I was watching Guildies do it this weekend,
What?
unless they changed it between now and then. But they were getting
No.
both the barrel smash, avoid mechanic, and the good or bad buffs that got thrown around.
Oh,
Okay,
Then
cool.
I trust that. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
because it's the bartender that throws those, right? It's not one of the 3 captains, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wait, was that active every week?
Yeah, I think so.
The bartender threw those.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
And then if Raul was on your side, he would drop the AoE small buff barrel, right? That you would stand in.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. The haste one or whatever
Yeah.
it was. It maybe it was damage gain or some shit.
Something like that.
Holy shit! It's been a while.
What a beautiful trip down memory lane. Speaking of beautiful trips down memory lane, the Twitch Drops program has been expanded further, or I guess continued, and there are now going to be, there's a Twitch Drop from May 2nd to May 9th, so the first week of the patch, where if you watch at least 4 hours of Dragonflight content on any channel that has it activated, which it should basically be any channel, like you have to opt out if you didn't want this in, so pretty much nobody does that, so basically just any WoW channel is going to do this. You will get the Ethereal Portal, which is a Hearthstone variant that you can use to spice up your Hearthstoning, looks. One of the hundreds of effects like this now, I guess, in the game, but this is an old TCG reward that is now becoming a Twitch Drop. And then on the 9th through the 17th, which is the first week of the patch, I guess all the way, the first week of the raid, sorry. Then there's the Blazing Hippogriff, which was quite one of the expensive and reasonably sought after TCG rewards as well. Yeah.
They also stated that they're not willing to do anything with the Swift Tiger, right?
So they said it was like extremely unlikely or something. So they've left the door open to doing it, but yeah, they've implied that's not happening, at least for now. The Spectral Tiger.
I do not hate that they are killing the TCG market with this stuff coming via random shit, whether it be the trading post or Twitch Drops or whatever.
Yeah, I feel for people that, like, especially if you like just bought one of these things, but I don't know. At this point, do not buy any TCG mounts or anything like that at this point.
Yeah, this is the second time
they're going to be free. Yeah,
done something overlapping with it, right?
I do think it's cool. Like these are such cool models and stuff that are in the game that so few people have. That like any one specifically. I think like the Spectral Tiger or whatever, that one's so iconic and stuff. Maybe you want to keep the rarity of that to keep it super special, but the rest of these, I think it does make sense to spread around a little bit. On the other hand, I wouldn't care that much if these were just cool new mounts that they made for Twitch Drops, or if they were other mounts, if they sprinkled in some like old AOTC mounts or that kind of stuff as well. I would be fine with any of that.
Are they going to expand the BMA ever, or is the BMA like dead for the trading post?
Did they put anything new into it with Dragonflight?
No.
Okay. I guess they put the Brutosaur in there at some point. Yeah.
But they haven't really expanded.
I think the trading post is the
really.
more, that's something that there is more of like a flagship feature because so few people actually engaged with the Black Market Auction House.
I think that both of the systems can exist in the same world. It's just, I don't know. They just haven't done anything with the BMA. They just kind of like shipped it and then like left it.
Yeah, I think that's I don't know. I think that the trading post is great. I think that these Twitch Drops are great. Obviously, like the Twitch Drops inflate Twitch viewership, which is good for me. But I still think they're cool, and I think I would think that even if I wasn't a Twitch streamer. But it's hard to be sure with these sorts of things. Okay, I think that's the news for the week. That's the stuff there. So we've got a couple of Q&A questions to get to. But first, we get to thank our supporters over on the Patreon. They are, do you understand the assignment? Wait, there was an assignment? Never Nude, Ja, King of Skills, Dranos Dynaplo. By the way, the two assignment ones there, those are two different people. It's not like one person just giving a call and response, because that would be less good. It's better when there are these combos of patrons. So you see the patrons kind of working together, setting these up. Of course, there's no strict limit on characters. So sometimes patrons do put their own joke and answer in the same one. But
There's
extra
no-
credit
there's
goes
no
to Riley and Mac for coordinating that one at the top
There's
of
no
the Patreon list.
strict
There.
limit, but there's a
vibe.
I look
limit.
at it, I'm like,
we
what
do,
is that?
We do, yeah. We accept and reject some of them sometimes based off of if we have to. No rules, except for whatever we want. Dranos Dilopillow, Chromed, Trekkie, Chewy, 10.0 Farewell, Ziv XX, Salty Senny, Necris, Sinmora, Tankdill, Nevuk, Eevee, Unholy DK's Rise Up, No Trick, I Forgot I Was Subbed Here, Dimat, Freehold Waiting Room, Rework Mistweaver, Riley understands the assignment, but Van is still clueless, Nyx, Well, I was wrong, the devs may just actually understand the players, Gallic, Brusiv, Dratnos Shards Abyss. What were the names of the 4 awakened mini-bosses? Like and subscribe if Dratnos gets them all.
Oh,
I could help you. Okay, Samrak, Beckoner, Chaos.
Samrak, Beckoner, Chaos, okay.
Oh.
I don't think I can do the other. None of them are jumping to mind. I know there was the
Urgroth, Breaker of Heroes.
Breaker of Heroes, okay.
There's the Blob and the Spider.
The Blob and the Spider, yeah. Was the Blob like Blood of the Corruptor or something?
Oh, Blood of the Corrupted? Yeah. Was that him?
Yeah. I don't remember his name, though.
I think it's Blood of the Corrupted, isn't it?
Is
that was just his name, right?
And then what's the Spider?
She had like a name.
Yeah, it's like it started with an A or something. I don't know. Awakened, Affix. I give up. I'm looking it up. Let's. But I feel like there are probably listeners that are driving now that will be mad if we don't say it. So
Grand Slam Gary.
Grand Slam Gary.
Grand Slam Gary.
It was Voidweaver Malthier is the.
That's the one. Yeah,
that's the Spider. Samrak Beckoner of Chaos, Urgoth Breaker of Heroes was correct, and Blood of the Corruptor was also correct. So we got 3 out of 4. Between us.
Pretty good.
But
that's pretty good.
I think if you guys hadn't been here, I would have gotten 0 out of 4 actually of those. I'm not sure. That was
you would have got the Blood of the Corruptor one, I think.
Maybe, but I'm not sure.
Didn't you?
I did say that one, but I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure my brain would have been jogged if it wasn't for you guys on that one. Okay. M Sanity. Oh, and see you guys in Freehold also says the last one. And okay, M Sanity, Xena. Rogue is now good enough for Prague, but still bad enough to be that for SLG. Bless up. Red Color, youtube.com/workbringer, Alphabet Soup, Druid Friends of Evolved Gaming, #1 Simsky for Trelsky, Lurka's back in the States, but was he ever really gone from our hearts? Milk, Sife, Pone, Windwalker Monks deal with nerfs by rolling with the punches. Thesaurus.com is a powerful tool. The Marsh Hare, Svar has forgiven Chordy for his Shadowland shenanigans. That was the Veil Strider, the last quest to pop for a lot of us Veil Strider hunters. In before Blizzard brings back Stonecore for 10.2 so they can keep their streak of seasons with a worm boss alive. Big Head Small Brain. Narnar TV wants to run some keys with Skidoo this week. Agitar, Juniper. Vvoker is now V Phoenix again because pink class equals damage. A high insect density usually helps with a healthy soil, way more than an English lawn. Go for some wildflower carpet. This helps keeping your ground healthy and strong and supports a vegetable garden. You may want in the future, for nothing tastes better than your own tomatoes.
Okay.
Is this a lawn care tip? Or is this...
Okay. Here's the deal. So apparently we asked for lawn care tips last week. And whenever this got submitted, I was like, this does not pass the vibe check. Why is this so long? And then the rebuttal was, you asked for lawn care tips. And I said, well, I guess I'm putting it in.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like lawn care tips. That's nice. That's good. We'll allow it. Rat Run. If you can't get a week 120, just remember, it just takes some time. Little girl, you're in the middle of the grind. Everything will be just fine. Everything will be all right. I know that song. That's a song I'm familiar with.
Proud of you.
I like how he always starts it with like something WoW related, and then it ends up being an emo song at the end. That's some good stuff.
Chauncey, that moment when your tank says, "Now where's my ranged at?" during Jade Serpent Dragon Boss and bricks your key. See, in my keys, the tank just says, "I'm dead here," and bricks your key. Feral Druids in the MDI, you've got to be kidding me. Oh, you don't have that yet? Boom. Sire Dematicus and the small mammal living in Dratnos' shirt and Sapphire. Thank you all for the support. Let's move on to Q&A. Our first question comes from Klan2011 in Discord. It says, bit of an easy question, but what would you consider a good source for Bloodlust timings as preparation for Season 2? I usually resort to watching high keys streamers do, but I pug a lot and generally don't go much past 20s. Their timings don't always align with my own runs. So, I don't know about you guys, but my general rule of thumb is, so first of all, if the timings of the high keys aren't aligning with yours, you're probably going like faster, right? Because you're doing lower keys. and things are working out nicely. But sometimes it's because you're doing smaller pulls and you're getting places in just a different order than like the high key meta path. So a good general rule of thumb is get as many lusts as you're allowed to in the dungeon, right? So do not miss a use of bloodlust. I guess that's the second priority, because the first priority is if there's any mandatory bloodlusts, like if there's any bosses that if you can't lust them, you're going to deplete the key. You need to put a lust on those bosses. Although you should work around to then move your pulls before and after that so that you don't miss a lust throughout the dungeon. And then second of all, yeah, just smash your lust on cooldown on either big pulls or bosses. If you've got a boss coming up soon, hit the lust on it. If you don't have a boss coming up soon and your lust is off cooldown, just slam it on any pull that you're about to do. First pull of the dungeon, I almost always lust on fortified. On tyrannical, I'll often hold it for the first boss. It depends on what the boss is and what the dungeon is. But it does. I guess kind of think about like how scared am I of the next boss, and if the answer is very, then hold your lust for it. Otherwise, just slam it on a big trash pull.
Yeah, you kind of have to identify like what the hardest part of the dungeon is and start there with your lust timings.
I agree.
So like if let's say the hardest pull you have to have lust for is like 5 minutes in, obviously you save lust for that, and then you start planning your second and third lusts for 10 and 20 minutes after that point. Or just send it on CD like Dratno said. Default's always good after you clean up the most critical list.
Yeah. Tettles, how about you? You got some heuristics, some rules to live by on the list?
I think that Troll, you and Troll pretty much hit everything that I would have, all the advice I would have given. Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Makra. He says, curious what thoughts would be on simplifying mob casts in dungeons. Specifically, there would be 3 types: interruptible, stunnable, or immune, and players would be expected to interrupt or stop all casts except for the immune ones. The thought would be to remove filler casts that add a learning curve for new players. While those filler casts add gameplay at high key levels, they create a lot of confusion for people learning dungeons. Blizzard could update cast bars to make it clear what to do for each as well. I think
I'm trying to think of like what does he mean by filler cast?
So it's like a bolt that bolts somebody for 20% of their health in a 15 and for 80% of their health in a 22 or something like that.
Like throw research kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking like the Mystics with the rune, which is like a meme cast, and then the obviously Holy Radiance, which is like I'm gonna top the whole entire group cast.
Yeah, I think just like anything that's not vital, right? I don't know.
Oh, I guess yeah, it could just be anything that's not vital.
Like you could even argue that means all the different melee mobs that hit the tank with like a regular tank hit, like Power Strike and Halls of Valor or whatever it's called, Power Attack, whatever. Like maybe I don't know. The problem is tanks need to see that stuff, and healers may need to see that stuff, but maybe DPS players don't, if that makes sense. Sometimes.
I think that this only matters very specifically with caster mobs in very specific situations, right? More often than not, I feel like Blizzard does a decently good job of identifying like what the mobs should be, and they've definitely been doing a better job. Having played Underrot, if you haven't played Underrot since BFA, what they've done to those mobs, changing their interrupts and casting and stuff like that, is spectacular. That stuff is going to be really good coming to season 2. I think that Temple of the Jade Serpent had some outliers with specifically the Water Speakers and the Mystics. But more often than not, I think that Blizzard does a decent job of making sure the mobs, it's easy to identify what you need to do versus them.
Yeah, I could see how like having Rune of Healing and Holy Radiance on the same mob, and like one of them is bad if it goes off and the other is fine. I can see how that's like a learning curve for new players. But I think if we instead move to a world where it's like every cast, it's just always just the bad ones if they actually go off, right? I feel like that would be worse. Because like, new players are still just going to get overwhelmed and casts are going to go off, right? And if we move to like them all being really bad if they do go off, I guess there would be less of them.
So there would be less of them. Yeah.
But I think the more I think about this, I think it's pretty clear to see what is kickable and what's not kickable. But it's not very intuitive to see mobs that are immune to stuns, which are like lieutenant mobs.
I agree with that.
That you think would be knockable or stoppable are not. And so like you see like the Sentinel and Halls of Valor casting the Crackle or whatever. and you try to stop it, and you're a new player, and you're like, oh, it's immune. I just can't do anything about that, I guess. Like they should maybe put something on the cast bar that shows that.
I'm thinking like the no-cood centaurs in the Raging Tempest wing, where the Primalist Storm Speaker, interruptible Stormcaller named mob, not interruptible, or knockable, stunnable, whatever. And it's like, why are they both not? Why are one of them stunnable and the other one isn't?
I would be down for a different UI element between stunnable casts and not stunnable casts, right? Like stoppable and not stoppable casts on mobs. I think that could be good. Yeah, like just like the single shield, and then maybe a bar that's just got shields all the way behind it, like every step of the way, or it's just something that like makes it obvious, like you're not stopping this cast, it's going off, buddy. But I think that there being like some casts that are lowish impact in dungeons, or some casts that are like situational, contextual in dungeons. I think that adds enough, maybe just selfishly to my keys, but I would be sad if we lost like these medium impact casts that you sometimes want to stop and sometimes don't. And you sometimes
I
have,
like being able to see those.
You sometimes have a group with enough kicks to stop those and sometimes don't. And an AoE stun stops those for a while, and that's like extra benefit that it's providing and stuff. And sometimes you feel really smart because you land an AoE stun like on 3 of them as they're going all at once, that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't want to see a huge change to like the design philosophy. I would be down for a UI change that made it clear this mob is stunnable, this mob isn't. Yeah.
It's just interesting because I think Corruptors in No-Code and Vault Guards in Azure Vault are actually kind of similar mobs, where both of them are dangerous to your tank. One of them you have to, like the Corruptors, their bolt is like a kickable thing, whereas the Vault Guards, you don't necessarily know that they're dangerous to your tank, but they're stunnable, and like you should be looking to stun their Ice Cutter. I don't know. I think that it's not always like super clear, but I think that Blizzard's definitely been doing a better job of making it pretty intuitive.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is our questions exhausted for the week and our topic as well. We will be back next week to talk about the start of the patch, how things are going there. So that is where you'll see us then. And then, of course, a couple weeks off after that. Make sure to follow all of us on our individual channels as well. And we will see you in the next one. Later, gamers.
GG's.
Bye.